today we have a very esteemed and distinguished colleague from the UK, Dr. Deirdre Hughes, OBE, the Order of the British Empire. I'm extremely humble and privileged to seek her perspective and to inspire the world through her very valuable insights on career development and career guidance. As you know, this theme is maximizing career guidance and career development. So this is my humble effort of trying to give you a perspective from leading influencers across the globe. So very welcome to Dr. Hughes to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Raza. And can I begin by just saying congratulations on your great work. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to have a conversation.
Thank you. Can you share very briefly about your own personal career development experience, how you came to the field of transforming people? And I know you have done a lot of work on policy. So both experiences individually as well as work at the national level and international level.
Well, that's a two-part question, isn't it? So the first part is really about my own personal lived experience. You may or may not be able to detect that I'm from Northern Ireland originally. I grew up in Northern Ireland in the 70s and the 80s, 70s in the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And I guess what I learned from that was the importance really of having networks, the importance of always being acutely aware of what unemployment can do to people's lives, to their self-esteem, indeed to their livelihoods, and also discrimination, you know, the negative effects of living in a society where there is a lot of discrimination is not good for the soul, it's not good for the individual, it's not good for families, not good for the economy, and certainly not good for local communities. So from a personal perspective, I started my career journey in the civil service, then the social services, where I thought I might like to be a social worker. And I ended up getting a job called an unemployment employment specialist. And I only got the job because I said to the person interviewing me, don't you think that that's a bit of a contradiction? So that's my personal lived experience. I entered the field of career guidance in the sort of early 1980s, and I've been at it ever since.
Excellent. Can you share some experiences of your national initiatives on career reforms?
Yes, well, I was very honoured, as you said, to receive an OBE from Her Majesty the Queen back in 2014, and that was for my services to European lifelong guidance. So to give you just a few sort of highlights on policy sort of reforms here in the UK, I think first of all, my most recent work has been in Scotland, working to Minister Hepburn and the Scottish Government, looking at a new career strategy moving forward in Scotland, which was published in February of this year. I've just recently been working with Careers Wales on a new vision for 2021 to 2026, really setting out what a national career service in Wales will look like going forward. I'm very much a facilitator. It's owned and developed by the Careers Wales team. I chair something called Skills Northern Ireland. So I go back home where 5 years ago, I realized that the young people in Northern Ireland didn't have these big skill shows where they could get experience of and exposure to the world of work. So I brought some people together, and 5 years on, we have Skills Northern Ireland, a major exhibition where young people from schools from the age of 14 right up to 2021 come each year to the Belfast Titanic Centre, very, very close to Game of Thrones, which maybe some of your listeners will be very aware of. So we go back there and we make magic happen once a year. And then just maybe finally, two things. I chaired a National Careers Council reporting to 3 ministers in England from 2012 to 2014. And that was very much about how can we get a national career service that's high performing and actually provides good services for young people and adults. And just yesterday, I had a note from colleagues in CareersNet, which is a network in Europe looking at lifelong guidance and career education. And I'll send you the link after this interview because colleagues might be interested in some of those developments there.
Sure, wonderful. You indeed have a very holistic and a very deep experience in career reforms and career development. As you know, this theme of this career conversation is maximizing career guidance and career development, which is also the International Conference of IABG's theme next year. So how can different communities, individuals, countries, cities can actually maximize the profession in your valuable perspective?
Well, I think there are some important messages. You know, the first message is about how we communicate to those outside of the world of career development. So, for example, the first key message I would say is that jobs and careers are not just mission critical for an economy, but they're also mission critical for the health system and the health of our nations. And just for every 1 month that someone is unemployed, their mental health deteriorates. So the big issue, I think, is for us to convey that career development support systems, which come in many different forms, but they are a private as well as a public good. And Serena Hopkins talks about superheroes. We have to all become superheroes in this field. I think for the wider careers community, for us to come together and to have some clear messages around the education, the social, the economic outcomes of good career development support and return on investment. My experience of working with ministerial teams is that they always have to make the case to Treasury. And I think maybe we shy away from that too much sometimes. So I hope that as a community maximizing potential, we won't just look at the individual, but we'll look at it more holistically and not shy away from being very skillful at articulating what the returns on investment are.
Excellent. Very, very wisely said that it's very important on how you communicate to your multi-level stakeholders. And the more clear your communication is, the much better it will be to maximize career guidance and career development. Very inspiring words. And I love the connotation of superheroes. I think we are all superheroes in our respective communities across the globe. And that's how the profession actually maximizes. I know in this COVID-19, different countries have taken different steps to ensure that access of career guidance and career development continues. So what types of creative strategies have you done in your respective country in the UK to ensure that access remains in these difficult times?
I think you raise a really important point about the pandemic. It's changed all our lives, hasn't it, significantly? So before sort of saying what the responses are, let me just highlight a couple of, if you like, the challenges that were there even before the pandemic came. So the first challenge before the pandemic came was that we had concerns about inequalities, about skills mismatch, about youth unemployment, worries about the haves and the have-nots, you know, a neoliberalism approach where the individual has to take responsibility for everything. And in a way, I think we're at a sea change now where actually that's not good enough. And that what we have to do is come up with strategies that are not just about one person looking after himself or herself, but actually looking after each other in society. So here are a couple of examples of how, in my very small way, I have been proactive. One is that through the European network called CareersNet, I prepared 4 country reports, that's Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales. and actually worked with colleagues across those 4 nations to find out how their services were transforming and what they were doing. So like everywhere else in the world, there's been a big digital shift, interviews being done online, group work being done online, making resources more available, having Zoom meetings now outside of 9 to 5 hours, a much more sort of flexible way. So if anyone would like to see what's going on in Europe, again, I can provide you the link to that. I think the other most important thing in terms of sort of making a difference, I also, I'm a practitioner at heart. So I've recently hosted a major international, our first virtual international conference. And that was really to reach out to practitioners at a time when lots of conferences were being postponed, to basically keep the spotlight on career development and to just remind us all, as you were doing, Raza, in your important work, that we're here for each other as a community. And it doesn't matter whether you're in policy or research or practice. I happen to work in all 3. But actually, what's so important is as a community, we actually have the confidence in this changing time to show that career development makes a difference. And actually, we should be seeing huge demand for career development support services. And with that, we need to work closely with ministerial ministers and policymakers to help shape really good career support mechanisms for young people and adults from a very early age.
Very inspiring words in these difficult times. I think it's very important to have visibility, and congratulations on your recent international conference. I think it's important to have the career conversations flowing, as I often say on my LinkedIn post. It is very, very important to actually articulate our message on a very frequent basis. Going to the next stream of questions, the United Nations has different days and they celebrate Women's Day, Children's Day, Labor Day. Why not have a International Career Day? Your valuable insights on that.
I think that's a fantastic. Count me in on that. I think we definitely need to have such awareness raising campaigns. Here in the UK, particularly in England, we have something called National Careers Week, which is coming up in early March. And that's really where it's a whole week of activity. You could say philosophically, every day is a career day because career is a sequence of life and work experiences over time, and we all have one. But I think anything that actually helps to raise the profile of those laudable goals from the United Nations is really important. And Raz, I hope you don't mind, but I'll just give you 2 small examples, which I mentioned just in your earlier question about what are we doing during the pandemic. I went back to Northern Ireland and actually went to a primary school where on a housing estate not far from where I lived. And I really believe passionately that we have to start early in primary schools and actually have those dreams and aspirations that young people have and children from an early age, that we do not lose sight of those. So I've been doing some work around career-related learning in primary schools. And then at the other end of the spectrum, I was very fortunate to have won a national prize on the development of a chat bot called Cici, the chat bot. And so I'm currently looking at how a bot can provide careers information and advice 24/7, but that we can train the bot to refer to the guidance practitioners. So I just wanted to throw that in around. It's another symbol of how the world is changing and how we as a community have to embrace digital technology transformation, but also not lose sight of the fact that we need human intervention as well.
Very nice, very creative way of sharing about the bot. I think we need to be not only to be digital, but be very creative in our way of creating impact. I know Generation Z has had a significant impact with this COVID-19. So what words of wisdom would you share for Generation Z to remain hopeful, and how can they start their careers in this difficult times?
Well, I think you've used that word that is so important, and that is hope. But I would add hope, curiosity, and creativity. I'd put those together really for any young person. I think, throughout the history of time, there have always been periods in history where it has been challenging, in lots of different ways. And I think for this generation, really, the best resource that they have are their own talents and their skills. And I think the message to that generation is that never underestimate your skills and your talents. You might sometimes not get the best qualifications from your schooling. You might not enjoy your schooling, but everyone somewhere has got a hidden talent and a skill. And so I would encourage this generation to stay curious. This is why I'm in the field of work that I'm in. I was just curious about how come some people can get jobs quite easily, and then other people, it's a struggle. Or for some people, they never get that foothold. So I think be curious and be creative. There's lots of different ways now that you can learn about careers. Podcasts, definitely. Many young people I work with, they love listening to podcasts about other people's careers. In the careers community, we need to do a bit more of that storytelling as well. But I think for young people, it's tough with uncertainty, but with uncertainty it also brings not just challenge, but opportunity. And, not everyone can be entrepreneurial, but I think we have to support people who have got that entrepreneurial spirit. But everyone can be creative in some way, and that's where careers practitioners deep in local communities, they really make a difference, because they can have that conversation flow and just that little sort of lift to an individual to help them know that they can do certain things. And even if they can't do it easily, with a bit of support from a skilled and trained professional, they actually can fly and do really, really well.
Wonderful words of inspiration for Generation Z, and not just for Generation Z, for everyone. I think curiosity and creativity and hope, it's a very robust formula of believing in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, the whole world believes in you. So on that, coming towards the conclusion of this very inspiring interview that I've really enjoyed, your words of wisdom as we conclude this third conversation of maximizing career guidance and career development.
Well, I think my words of wisdom are: keep the faith. Your work is important. Don't underestimate the impact of your work, but don't neglect your evidence base. Be brave in embracing the digital, but always remember that there are large swathes of society who have maybe no digital literacy or no access to digital devices. My message really is always be curious, keep the faith, and reach out and connect with other colleagues, as indeed Raza is doing with me. He's been very tenacious. He's chased me constantly to do this interview, and I've learned more about Raza and his work, and I'm very grateful to him for doing that. So he's a great example of build your networks, and when you build your networks, you build your confidence and you build your reach as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hughes. It was indeed an honor and a pleasure. And these words of inspiration, these words of hope that people are listening all across the globe will be words of wisdom for you, that you will not give up. The best is yet to come. So thank you once again.